Hey Bat fans, Luke here, ready to Bat chat about another Bat classic, and today we're going to take a look at Batman Detective, which is a sequel, I put that in the loosest terms, to the trade Batman Death in the City. And Detective collects issues 821 through 826 of Detective Comics, so we're talking pre-New 52. And it's pretty much all written by Paul Dini, with the exception of a couple parts. And we also have Royal McGraw helping on writing duties. But the artist in this is just great. We have Don Kramer, we have Wayne Faucher, we had J.H. Williams III actually shows up in the first story. Joe Bennett and Victor Lamas, Marcos Martz and Lucina Del Negro, with pretty much colors all by John Cleese. And we have all these covers by Simeon Bianchi. And if you look at this run in Detective Comics, which we had kind of collecting these two trays, these are pretty much all the covers that you're going to see, and they're just fantastic. Bianchi just does a great job on the covers. And what's good about Detective, maybe not so much as in Death in the City, because there was a couple of exceptions what I'm getting ready to bring up. Detective, well, these issues 821 to 826, which is 6 issues, they're all really one and done stories. And only reference to, I don't want to say reference to, but one that might just kind of be a continuity to the previous stories in the first one. There is one where we talk about this Penguin story. There's a character that kind of gets reference to something that happens in Death in the City, but these literally are just one and done, and you pick them up, kind of really read them at your leisure, and they kind of focus on Batman just being the detective. Street level stories, Batman, solving the case by going out, finding the clues, doing some analysis, just great detective work, and that what really helps kind of Paul Dini's writing really just stand out in this, and that's one of his strengths, and that's what's really the cool part about this book. And these stories are really good. Again, 6 stories through 6 issues. First one is The Beautiful People. This one here deals with this character. It's later known as Facade, which I'll kind of real quickly kind of go through. That one is done by art by J.H. Williams III, and J.H. Williams III's art is just beautiful. I know I kind of give Juan Ferrara the nod as far as this creative paneling nowadays, but I mean, all time, the way J.H. Williams III's art is just alone is really great, but then how he does his paneling, it's just world class. ACO kind of does the same thing. So I mean, today you got some pretty good artists to use that kind of approach, but J.H. Williams III is just great. His art is just delicious in this, and you do see some pretty good paneling work by him. Next one, Enigma Consulting Detective. This is the era where kind of Riddler was a quasi good guy in a way, where he really became like a gumshoe, kind of the not the cliche, go out and provide, hire a private detective type of thing. This is where you kind of see the origins of that, and it kind of plays out in this case that was pretty interesting. Then you have this story called Stalked. This one is a Poison Ivy story, and really kind of dives into a little bit of the dark side of the Pamela Isley, a character and persona, which was actually really good. Night of the Penguin, that one obviously the Penguin story, but that does kind of connect back to a story we had prior in Death of the City dealing with this character Loxias, Loxias, I think Loxias. Maybe I might be it. He's kind of a magician, so obviously Satana does have a cameo in this. So this does kind of reference back to one of the stories in Death of the City, but it is primarily a Penguin-driven story where he kind of, sort of, much like, where do we see this recently? I think it was actually in black and white. But there was this one story where, off the top of my head, Penguin kind of goes good, and he gets out of jail, and part of his probation, he's got to be on the up and up, and he gets his business, and he has this person that he kind of developed a relationship while he was in jail, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but this is him kind of going on the up and up, sort of, in a way, and it involves this character kind of ripping him off at the blackjack tables. It's a good story, so there's that. Return of Dr. Phosphorus was actually a really good one, dealing primarily with the character Dr. Phosphorus. I do say, if you want a good Dr. Phosphorus story, go back in the Steve Englehart era of Batman stories and get the origin of him, and it's just awesome. You see the correlation between him and Rupert Thorne in this as well, and it's a really good story. And they wrap up this book with Sleigh Ride, just a classic Joker story where Joker takes Tim Drake Robin out for a little joyride, and just Joker being Joker. It's just great. So those are the stories. Overall, I mean, they're really good. If I kind of had to rack and stack them, I'll kind of see if I can kind of look at it. I just want to show you some of the one. We have the Beautiful People. J.H. Williams III's art is just great. First off, I would give the nod to the sleigh ride story. It's just great. Let me see if I can flip back to that one. It's just, again, it just really just sums up what makes the Joker character what he is. And it's set in this Christmas time period, and it's just so good. It is kind of weird how Robin kind of just ends up in the Joker's car by accident, but you take that aside, you just really do just get in one single issue just what makes Joker the Joker, and it's just totally awesome. The art in it is great. Paul Dini's storytelling is awesome. Dialogue is great. You do see Tim Drake kind of use his mental acumen in this, and you do see Joker kind of get one leg up on him on this, and it's just really well done. Next issue, I would give again to the Beautiful People. I mean, that's the facade right there. Again, it just more or less, because the art is so darn good. It's just great. Art's great. In the story, it's good, and it does really, this one really does. While as the sleigh ride really doesn't have Batman much, and I think he's like in the last 2 pages, and it's not really a detective story as much. This one here is just pure detective work, and it is just great. Batman just really solving the case, and again, the paneling, it's just, oh, it's so good. So yeah, I would kind of give that second nod to that one. Next one up, the third story, if I had to kind of put it, believe it or not, I would give it to the Return of Dr. Phosphorus. Again, the art in it is really good. See if I can get to the pages. You feel for Dr. Phosphorus in a way, and it kind of, and if you're not really up to snuff on Dr. Phosphorus, and if you haven't read him in other stories or haven't got access to the Englehart run as part of his storytelling, this does kind of fill in the holes of what you might not know of the character pretty well, how he came to be, how Rupert Thorne is kind of brought into all this. And it does a really good job of telling the story. The art is just great too. And it's a really fun story. Again, one and done, pick it up as you read it, and the art is just, throughout this book, the art is just fantastic. Alfred kind of helps Bruce kind of solve a way to kind of take down Dr. Phosphorus. And if I only had to kind of critique it to the end, is literally like the last page. It's just the story had a certain tone to it throughout, and this way it kind of ended with the baguette and not having the baking powder or the baking soda and having a really salty taste to it it just felt kind of off, just to be perfectly honest. Fourth story. Go back to the cover page. Which one would be next? I'm tending towards saying the Enigma Consulting Detective story, which is actually the second one. Again, the art is great. I'm I did enjoy the whole part of the Edward Nygma sort of being good, kind of being like the private detective type of thing. What I really love the best about it, though, is the story that Batman's kind of going through, putting up the case. It goes deep. It goes into some really dark themes too. Kind of goes into like kind of like the S&M brothel area to kind of help flush out some details. The double twist with someone who's kind of behind this murder that Batman ended up trying to solve. It was a good twist, a lot of details, and it was like I was reading. I don't want to say reading. It's a tough one. It feels a little bit like I'm only gonna say Seven, the movie Seven, because it has that one scene with the person that does the deadly sin with lust and kind of goes into that club. It had a feel a little bit like that, but again, it has like a noirish feel and just a dark tone. Goes into some dark subject matter and really just a really good story. The only thing I had to knock about this one is just it wrapped up way too quick, and who gets kind of pointed out as being the ultimate bad person behind everything in that story. It almost feels like they just needed one more issue to kind of flush out some of those details. Next one would be Stalked, the Poison Ivy story. Again, kind of goes into some really dark tones with Pamela Isley and the things that are coming after her, these kind of stalks, these roots that are going after her, who are kind of immune to her defenses. It's a good twist on who they are and their motives. The art's great, as you can kind of see, but again, it kind of suffers from the story we had. What I was just talking about. It just wrapped up really quick. Again, another one of those ones where I felt like it really needed one more issue to kind of flush things out. And lastly, the Night of the Penguin one. To be perfectly honest, I get it. Penguin, you kind of see this kind of thing with him every once in a while. Him trying to be an up and up businessman, con man, if you would. Um, it was good. Kind of continues the Edward Nygma kind of persona with him being a private detective, whatnot, yada yada yada. Um, and to be perfectly honest, the Satana kind of interjection within this book did seem kind of out of place. But the art was good, and the story is good. Again, it's just Batman getting down to the brass tacks, following clues to solve the case. It was good. Lois Lane does kind of make an appearance in this as well. But also the ending on this with the love affair of Bruce of the issue, it just felt kind of clunky. So, but still, as a whole, it was a good story. So those are kind of my rundown, the number 1 to number 6 of it. Overall, this was a really good book. Just classic Batman detective stories. Again, the art throughout is great. I don't know. This is one of those ones where I'm going to sit there and say the strengths of this book. I would say the story by Dini and the art throughout are great and kind of even keel. It is just, you're just going to have a blast reading this. The arts, you just get sucked in. It's great. And it starts right off the bat with J.H. Williams III doing a really good job on his art duties. The stories, again, you get a good mix of some really darker tone type of stories, but even that sleigh ride story I was talking about, where it's not really Batman involved, you do see Tim Drake kind of use his mental acumen, so you get kind of the detective mental acumen strengths of storytelling with Batman, and even in that case Robin, and it's a really darker tone. I mean, this is more for the adult-ish type of reading audience, but it's just great. Art great, story great, dialogue throughout awesome. Even with the kind of twist they're doing with the Edward Nygma thing, him being the private detective, you got to just kind of put yourself in perspective the time period. But that was the character they're going to kind of go after, and even that new approach is still kind of kept true to the Edward Nygma characteristics that you would typically see. So everyone was on point. Great cast of characters in this: Batman, Robin, new characters like Facade, Penguin, Riddler, Poison Ivy, Dr. Phosphorus, Mr. Z, the guy who's kind of like the narcoleptic, who just he's playing you gotta see it. Joker throughout, just Jim Gordon, everyone you can really almost want is in here. The downside of this cover price on this, it says $14.99. This is an out of printer. You look on eBay now, you're gonna be paying anywhere between 20 and 40 bucks. 20 bucks on the low end. And normally I might say, well, go ahead and see if you can get yourself a single issues. Single issues for the 826 alone, that's a sleigh ride, it's the last one. With shipping, you're going to pay about 10 bucks. So the downside of this is going to be the price. But that said, pick this up. I'm 5 out of 5. Even the down on this, just I can look past it. 5 out of 5. This was just an awesome book. Great collection of single issues. Somehow, some way, get the book, get the single issues, fork down the money. I think you'll really enjoy it. If anything else, the art is great. If you love Batman, the detective aspect, great art with a dark tone feel to it, this is going to be right up your wheelhouse. So, anyway, those are my thoughts on this story. Hit me up in the comments below if you've read this book before. We'll bat chat and go from there. So, until next video, take care.